is Dr. O'Hara. I'm going to pick up with the citations. So there's two kinds. There's in-text citations and the running text. I'm going to start with the in-text citations. So citations are the electronic breadcrumbs that lead the reader back to the reference list. And the author's name in the reference list has to be the same one for the in-text citation. So remember, you have to have a matching in-text citation for every entry in the reference list, and every entry in the reference list has to have an in-text citation. And you need citations for statements of fact, definitions, statistics, and dates at a minimum. All right, so there are 4 different formats for the in-text citation, meaning it's in parentheses, depending on how many authors there are. So if you have one author, you're going to use the one author's name with the year every time. If you have 2 authors, this is what's in the reference list. Notice how I have Rose and Kelly, there's no comma there. Every time. And then for 6 or more authors, we're going to use the first author's name and et al. Every time. So this is different than the reference list. In the reference list, you have 8 or more authors. In the in-text citations, it's going to be 6 or more authors. So that's one little quirk that you have to get used to with APA. Now, the wild card, as I call them, is the 3 to 5 authors. So with 3 to 5 authors, you list all the authors the first time, then the second time you're going to use et al. With the first author's name. So the first time I'm going to list all the authors, there's a comma before the ampersand, and then the next time I'm only going to have the first author's name with et al. And notice how et al. Is spelled et space al period. Okay, so as I said, when you have 2 authors, you use the 2 authors' names every time. There's no et al. For 2 authors. The et al. Starts with 3 to 5 authors or 6 or more authors. So with 3 to 5 authors, you can't just use the first author's name alone. You have to list them all the first time and then use et al. After that. If you want to have more than one source in the parentheses, then they're going to be put in alphabetical order and they're going to be separated by a semicolon. The in-text citations are considered part of the sentence, and so there's no punctuation here. The punctuation goes at the end. You cannot separate the author from the year. You have to keep them together. And no initials are used except in a couple of rare occasions that I'll go over with you. And remember that these authors' names are the ones that are in the reference list. They have to match. If there's no year of publication, then use ND for no date. Okay, if you have quoted material, then you must have the page or paragraph number where the quotation is located, or it's considered plagiarism. So for this one, I've got one page, so the P period space and then the page number. In this one, it continued from one page to the next, so I have PP for more than one page, period, there's a space, and then the range of pages here. If there's no pagination or there's no pages, like usually there isn't for articles from web pages, then you count down the number of paragraphs and you use this notation of para, period, space, and then the number down from the top. It's better to paraphrase information, but you still need a citation. Now you must have the page number or the paragraph number for quoted material. If you have paraphrased information, it's optional. And check with your instructor to see if the page numbers are okay with paraphrased material. Some instructors think that it's wrong unless it's a quoted material. It's not wrong, so they are just misinformed, but they may or may not like it, and so that's up to them. So here's an example. Here's my first sentence, and it's got the in-text citation here. My student let me use her paper. She used it again here. Here she's got more than one in the parentheses here. And then the paper goes on. Okay, for the running text citations, this is where we're going to use the author as the subject of the sentence. So the in-text citation is you put the author's name at the end of the sentence, usually in parentheses. In this one, we're going to use Kelly as the author's name. So it's still author year. You don't separate the two, but there's no punctuation between the author's name and the year. If you have two authors, then we spell out and. We don't use the ampersand. The ampersand is only used in the parentheses. And if we have an organization, in this case the abbreviation was already explained. Here's 3 to 5 authors. I'm going to list them the first time. Then the next time I can use et al. First author's name and et al. No comma here. And you can separate the page number from the citation. That's the only exception to that rule there. If you have an organization, so this is my entry in the reference list, then if I'm using American Cancer Society as the author in this sentence, then I can put in the abbreviation to be used for the citation and to abbreviate American Cancer Society. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 there. If I haven't explained it already and I'm going to put this at the end of the sentence, then I'm going to spell it out. You must spell out the term the first time it's used, and then if you want to abbreviate it, then you can. This is at the end of the sentence, so I'm going to put the American Cancer Society abbreviation in brackets because I can't have parentheses inside parentheses. Then the next time I can use the abbreviation. Once you explain the abbreviation, it can be used anywhere in the paper. Do not keep explaining abbreviations. You only have to explain it one time. There's a very nice chart on page 177, and the chart is very confusing, I think. The first 2 columns here are for the running text, where the author is the subject of the sentence, and then these last 2 columns here are when you would have the information in parentheses, probably at the end of the sentence. Alright, for special situations, I already went over this when you have the same author and the date, how you use the little letters to help you out. Suppose you have more than one source by the same group of authors. Then what you're going to do is list all the authors the first time. But if I use Jones et al. For this one and Jones et al. For the second one, then I can't tell which one I'm talking about, right? And we're not going to use the little letters because the authors' names are not exactly the same. So what you do is, and this is on page 175, is you list as many of the authors' names that you need until they look different. So here I have Jones, Diaz, here I have Tan, here I have Tanaka. And this is one instance where there is a comma before et al. What if I have 2 or more authors with the same last names? So here I've got J.T. Miller and here I've got T.E. Miller. So in the in-text citation, we're going to use the initials in order to designate who is who even though the years are different. If you have junior or second, third, fourth, whatever it might be, it's used in the reference list but not in the in-text citation. Then for governmental agencies, usually there's a long list from the cabinet level down to the organization where you were able to find the information. So in the reference list, you're only going to list the organization that gave you the information. So this is a report. So I have the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, no date, title of the report, first word is capitalized. Then I've got the location, and the author is the same as the organization here, and then I've got retrieved from. For the in-text citation, the first time I'm going to list all the authors' names. This should be an ampersand. Let's fix that. In the parentheses. So let's fix that. So if I'm just going to use it one time, then I can just spell the whole thing out. If I'm going to use it a few times, then I can spell it out the first time. I can put the letters in the abbreviation here, and then the next time I can use the abbreviation. Okay, if you need more help than what I've provided for you here, you can make an appointment with the Writing and Communication Center, and here is the URL address to reach them. It's free service, and they have online appointments, and they have in-person appointments on the Davie campus. Check out my other videos for grammar and punctuation and paper organization and headings. And if you have any questions, you can email me, and you can call me. I'm in Los Angeles, so my office hours are 3 p.m. to midnight Eastern.